welcome everyone to the 93rd Celebrity Synastry chart reading, where I will be looking into Zayn Malik and Liam Payne. If you don't know me, hi, I'm Adeline and it is so nice to meet you. On this channel, I look at the dynamic between two celebrities using astrology. For those new and returning, I take notes on a Synastry chart looking at the personal planet signs aspects and house overlays if birth time is available. I share these notes and add my extra insights and interpretations along the way. So if that sounds good to you, subscribe and click the bell to join us weekly, and let's get right into it. Starting off with the sun, we have Zayn's sun in Capricorn and Liam's sun in Virgo. These are both earth signs. It's a dry relationship and they're a good business team. I mean, quite well adding up to what they did together. Liam enjoys serving Zayn and it's a practical and grounded relationship. Zayn helps Liam be more efficient. Zayn's sun overlaid in Liam's second house. Liam is a valuable asset to Zayn and Liam may feel used. This is interesting considering the fact that whole interview came out with Liam where he didn't necessarily say he felt used, I'm pretty sure. It was more of like, oh, he's the reason why One Direction happened or something like that, and he felt a bit more snubbed. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, because, you know, he would literally be quite valuable to Zayn if that was the case. Not sure how true that is. They both may be working towards a common goal, and Zayn sees Liam as someone who can help him achieve goals. Interesting. So he kind of did view Liam in that way, it seems like. Liam's sun overlaid in Zayn's seventh house. It's love-hate and they feel united together. They get in each other's heads and they sense that they are complementary, and they both subconsciously try to prove they are separate from the relationship, not surprisingly so at all, particularly for Liam, I imagine. They feel the other is a big presence in their life and they need to find balance to make the relationship work. They both may be driven to express themselves in extreme ways. I mean, they kind of have when it comes to the whole sort of like partnership and the whole sort of group dynamic. I don't want to say the most extreme out of all the band members, but you know, they both have gone in quite extreme directions when you consider where they started, if that makes sense. Like Zayn, he's really gone off and like done his own thing and some very different to what One Direction was. And then Liam also, in a sense, like, I mean, musically as well, I assume, but also when it comes to speaking out and sort of like expressing himself in, I feel like the public has interpreted it to be quite extreme the way he has expressed himself. Possibility of the personalities being lost in their relationship. So, I mean, I feel like both the personalities, particularly on Zayn's end, was quite lost when they did the whole One Direction thing. Zayn's sun conjunct to Liam's Uranus. They meet each other suddenly and they are separated at key moments. I wonder where they would be separated, because it seems like they were always together pretty much. They need to embrace spontaneity and the relationship as outside of tradition. Zayn is willing to support Liam's desires and Zayn wants more stability. They met when both were looking for something different and Zayn triggers Liam to explore his individuality. Liam challenges Zayn to be more unconventional. So it seems like this is leaning towards a thing that I'm pretty sure has come up in pretty much every reading we've done with Zayn and all the other One Direction members. Zayn seems to allow them to have the spotlight. He's very happy with that, and Zayn just seems to want to be like more the sort of stable ground. That's where it seems to be leaning towards again, but obviously we'll see a bit more. Zayn's sun conjunct to Liam's Neptune. It's a very spiritual relationship and they have intuitive communication and understanding. They both need to be careful to not confuse reality and illusions, and this relationship boosts Zayn's intuitiveness. Yeah, I mean, not surprisingly so that there would be an issue with like reality and confusions, particularly because we did see that the personalities are lost here. And so potentially like in the whole One Direction, you know, group, maybe their personalities being lost, because I'm pretty sure we have seen this already with Zayn and his sort of like part in this, that the personality is lost, and potentially maybe you could interpret this as One Direction, like the members themselves got confused of what is the real person and what is the sort of like persona they're presenting to the world. Hopefully that made sense. Zayn's sun, Sextile Liam's Pluto. There's a strong connection and they're more powerful together, which we did see that they are quite united together. And I feel like understandably so. I don't know if Zayn has gotten the sort of like same original success as he did when he was in One Direction. I don't feel like Liam has, though. They comfortably share secrets. Liam's sun opposite Zayn's Venus. Their values conflict and they frustrate each other. Zayn grows to resent Liam and Zayn sees Liam as too dictatorial. Okay. Zayn can play games with Liam and Liam needs to learn to accept Zayn, which we did see that he challenges Zayn to be a bit more unconventional. Maybe that's sort of, you know, something that Liam brings out in Zayn, if that makes sense. But at the same time, you know, even if Liam would, you know, challenge this or inspire this, he doesn't necessarily have to accept it, unfortunately. Hard work is needed to make this work, and Liam will either not appreciate Zayn or take him for granted. I actually don't know which one this would be so far. Honestly, I hope we'll see a bit more. Now for the intermission. This video is brought to you by me, my Etsy store, Adeline the Astrologer. If you ever watch this and think, hey, I would like her to read my Synastry chart, well, I will. I do personalized Synastry readings on my Etsy store, both basic and detailed. The basic one is very simple to understand. It's not overwhelming at all. It's pretty good for those that are beginners to astrology, just getting the head around astrology, or just as a fun gift idea. The detailed one is just like what I do on my channel, just a lot of insight and interpretation on your chart. So if you are interested in that and everything else astrology and tarot related, readings and gifts, then definitely check out my Etsy store. Links are below. I'm always releasing new things, so definitely check it out if you're interested. You can even just favorite the store just to show your support for free. Thanks for listening, and let's get back to the reading. So now it's time for moon. We have Zayn's moon in Virgo and Liam's moon in Aquarius. There's major differences in temperament, and they both value progressing. At least they have that. Like, that would definitely be very helpful. Zayn may not feel secure around Liam. So far, Zayn doesn't seem to really like Liam at all. Liam may find Zayn boring, potentially why maybe he would challenge Zayn to be a bit more unconventional, but then whatever Zayn does doesn't seem to appreciate. Neither prioritize their feelings. Zayn's moon are overlaid in Liam's 10th house. It's a neutral relationship, not surprisingly. So we really haven't seen a whole lot of like depth so far to this relationship. We've seen like it's intense, but it doesn't seem to be in a very like, you know, good way, like they're attached to each other sort of thing. Zayn feels uneasy around Liam. We're seeing again there's practical reasons for this relationship, and Zayn feels Liam is selfish. They view each other as a trophy. Great. This whole overlay was, yeah, interesting. Liam's moon overlaid in Zayn's 12th house. There's a lack of trust. It definitely seems to be that way on Zayn's part. Liam feels that Zayn is hiding something. I guess going back to the beginning where like Liam feels a bit more used and like Zayn has some ulterior motives as well or something. I assume it has to do with that. Zayn senses Liam's suspicions and there is no logical base for this lack of trust and paranoia, which I feel like would make sense, if that makes sense. There is no logical base for this lack of trust and paranoia, and it is difficult for them to deal with wounded feelings. Zayn's moon trine Liam's Uranus. They both feel free to express themselves, which we did see, but it seems to be purely that. They both feel okay to express themselves. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of accepting on the other end. There's a level of unpredictability, and ideas of unconventional domestic setup bring them together. Not really surprisingly so, like touring and, you know, kind of going hotel room to hotel room is not very conventional, is it? Liam is more open around Zayn and Liam feels safe with Zayn. This is interesting. This may be why he feels used, maybe. They can cope with sudden changes together and they enjoy talking about social issues. Mutual friends may bring them together. Zayn's moon trine Liam's Neptune. Zayn picks up on Liam's needs, going back to how he's a bit more Zayn in particular. is a bit more intuitive in this relationship. They inspire the other, and art is a shared interest, not surprisingly so. They sense each other's feelings, and they share a sensitive and mystical worldview, which is not really surprising. I feel like they would definitely share quite a unique perspective of the world together, considering they both share the same really unique experience, especially in modern times. There's a mystical meeting, and they both uncover the other's blind spots. Liam's moon trines Zayn's Jupiter. There's good fortune, and there's a possibility of being too excessive. They're happy in each other's presence. It seems like this is more on Liam's end. He seems to be a bit more comfortable around Zayn. You know, not that Zayn can't be like happy around Liam, but he seems to have a bit of like, you know, sort of walls up around Liam, I guess you could say. Honest communication is easy, and adventure is important in this relationship. Zayn helps Liam with his emotions, which is interesting. I wonder if this is going back to how like they both kind of open up each other, encourage each other to be quite open and be themselves. Maybe Zayn just brings that out in Liam, because it doesn't seem like they really have an actual like meaningful bond together. So now it's time for Mercury. We have Zayn's Mercury in Capricorn and Liam's Mercury in Virgo. These are both earth signs. They prioritize practical daily matters, and the relationship can get stale easily. They accomplish goals together, and they both tend to neglect their relationship. I'm really not surprised. I don't feel like there is a whole lot to neglect though. It seems like grass. Like if we're comparing this to a plant, like it's not like a flower or like a bonsai plant where there is substance and you neglect it and it dies. I feel like it's kind of like grass, this whole relationship. There's not a whole lot to it. There's not a whole lot to neglect, you know. Zayn's Mercury overlaid in Liam's second house. It's difficult to see eye to eye together, and they lack common views. Both get the impression that the other doesn't get them. I feel like that's a pretty correct impression. Liam's Mercury overlaid in Zayn's seventh house. Liam senses Zayn will accept the way he thinks. Liam seems to be a bit more sort of open to having a friendship, if that makes sense. Like Zayn very much walls up, it seems like here. Liam doesn't seem to have the sort of same attitude as Zayn, which is kind of sad, I guess you could say. Liam finds it easy to communicate with Zayn, and they have a strong communication and an intellectual bond. I mean, in a sense, they definitely have a creative bond. Zayn's Mercury square Liam's Mars. They challenge each other, and differences cause irritation. I mean, challenging each other to be themselves, we saw mostly on Liam's end, but pretty much the same energy on Zayn's end as well. Debates quickly turn into arguments, and Liam has a habit of interrupting Zayn. Liam tries to force his opinions on Zayn. I mean, no wonder Zayn isn't really a fan of Liam, like doesn't seem to trust him, doesn't seem to feel comfortable around him. Living together is difficult. That really sucks, considering that is a lot of their relationship. Zayn is too critical of Liam. Zayn's Mercury square Liam's Jupiter. It's a relationship that expands consciousness, in a sense, yes. Liam helps Zayn go through hard times with optimism. Liam definitely seems to be a bit the more sort of like optimistic, positive one. Promising more is a problem, and there's a habit of interrupting, which we did just see on Liam's end. Liam is frustrated with Zayn's analytical approach to life. I assume this will be related to Zayn being critical of Liam. Maybe he doesn't appreciate the sort of criticism, analytical nature he has. Liam may come off as holier than thou. There's a lack of understanding regarding each other's ideas. This makes sense, because although we did see they encourage each other to be themselves, we're not seeing a whole lot of like they actually accept the other. It seems like there's a whole lot of they don't really accept the other. Like Zayn's uncomfortable. Liam's a bit weird here, because he seems to be open to being like having a good, you know, meaningful friendship with Zayn, but at the same time is kind of doing a bad job at doing that. You know, he's interrupting Zayn. There's communication difficulties and frequent misunderstandings. There's a strong mental and intellectual bond. See, it seems like at least they have kind of like intellectual bond, intellectual understanding. Debates can turn into arguments, and they have different philosophical views. Zayn's Mercury conjunct Liam's Uranus. Liam challenges Zayn's way of thinking, and they are impulsive together, which we're seeing again with Liam challenging Zayn, and also being impulsive together. Not surprisingly so. We did see, I feel like, that excessiveness could be an issue, which, you know, impulsive with money. They both enjoy experimenting, and they come up with original ideas together, which I like this. You know, if they're making music together, that helps. They discover new ways of seeing the world together. That I agree with. As I said, they would have developed a really unique sense of the world or view of the world together with their unique experience. Zayn truly understands Liam's originality, which is interesting. Maybe Zayn kind of, respects Zayn as like a sort of colleague. Colleague would be the right word for these two rather than anything else, because there's not a whole lot of depth or any meaningful relationship here. Particularly on Zayn's end, he doesn't seem to be interested in that. They grow intellectually together and they casually talk about taboos. They share an interest in unusual topics. No idea what these topics would be. They are creative together and they find uncommon solutions to problems. Zayn's Mercury conjunct Liam's Neptune. Spirituality is prioritized and there's a telepathic-like connection, which we did see before. I think that whole sort of like spiritual part of the relationship. Zayn helps Liam turn his dreams into reality. This is interesting because we did see, like, in the beginning, it seemed to be Liam that was helping Zayn and Liam that was being used. I mean, it really is a mutual thing though, so it's not shocking we're seeing this on Zayn's end helping Liam. Habit of telling the other what they want to hear, and there's deceptive and exaggerative communication, which I feel like links back to the whole like confusing reality and illusions thing. Zayn finds Liam confusing and it's hard to talk about practical matters. They are compassionate towards each other. Liam's Mercury opposite Zayn's Venus. Zayn feels Liam doesn't consider his feelings, which I imagine why he doesn't feel particularly safe around Liam. They have contrasting ideas and it's an intellectually stimulating relationship. They cut each other off, we did see on Liam's end. They both feel the other is self-centered and it's a relationship of banter, which that is nice. I'm glad that they're able to have a little bit of rapport, even if it is more superficial. Liam may see Zayn as lacking depth. Liam seems to really not appreciate Zayn's personality, if that makes sense. Like, for what we have seen, like, there's a lot of, like, I mean, we're seeing he sees him as lacking depth. But also we've seen a few times already, like, he's challenging Zayn to change, to be different, to be more unconventional, which is not necessarily like a bad thing to challenge someone else. I guess depending on how you interpret it, it could be positive, but it could also be from a perspective of Liam wants Zayn to change. They're drawn to each other's differences and they have a difference in interests. Conversations become a source of conflict, which isn't the greatest, is it? Because I imagine they would have to converse a lot. They need to learn to listen to each other, and Liam can help Zayn intellectually. This is interesting because we did see that Zayn appreciates Liam's originality. I'm pretty sure in every other reading we did with Zayn is very much the sort of creative force. I think that's the right word. I probably worded it better in the moment with the other readings, but he was very much the sort of creative mentor, I guess you could say. Whereas here, we haven't seen a whole lot of that, and we've seen a little bit lean towards Liam. Like, Zayn respects him, and Liam is the one that helps him in that way. And I know it's intellectually, the way I interpret it, you could really see this as creatively, because that is where they are using their intelligence, if that makes sense. So now it's time for Venus. We have Zayn's Venus in Pisces and Liam's Venus in Leo. They are generous with each other, so I assume going back to the sort of wealth, they're excessive with it. Zayn doesn't give Liam the devotion he wants. He really doesn't though, does he? Liam is flattered by Zayn's dependency. The way I see this in that sort of sense that Liam is flattered that Zayn sort of depends on him a bit more creative intellectually, because we did just see that. Zayn gets easily hurt by Liam, and Liam wants Zayn to be more honest. I mean, going back to this very much sort of sums up the whole sort of Zayn has his walls up, Liam really doesn't. Zayn's Venus overlaid in Liam's 4th house. Zayn feels the need to protect himself from Liam, we're seeing again. Liam senses Zayn's hesitancy. I feel like we've seen this a couple times in Liam's end as well, where he senses Zayn's hesitancy and all of that, which he doesn't seem to appreciate. Uncertainty and tension characterizes their relationship. Liam's Venus overlaid in Zayn's 6th house. Liam feels they don't have much in common, not surprisingly so. Neither senses the other as their type. I'm seeing this more in a sort of musical sense, because when you are considering particularly with how they first met, on the X Factor, they're kind of set up together really. You wouldn't really plug them as sort of making music together, considering why they entered the show. Both pretty much wanted to be solo stars. you know, Zayn had the more sort of like wanted to do more R&B, like more soul type music. Whereas Liam, as far as I know, wanted to just do like, you know, pop music more sort of on the hip hop side. They're together as a result of duty and obligation, and it's a healthful and productive relationship, which we have seen before. Repeated. So now it's time for Mars. We have Zayn's Mars in Cancer and Liam's Mars in Libra. These are both cardinal signs. It's a passive-aggressive relationship, yeah. Like, we did see it right in the beginning, it's love-hate, and I feel like it is love-hate in this sort of, it's passive and aggressive sort of way. Because it seems like they kind of civil with each other, but they don't seem to, I guess I should say, Zayn doesn't seem to really like Liam, and Liam doesn't seem to really like that Zayn is not as open, if that makes sense. The relationship is slow to start, and they both avoid confrontation. It seems like mostly on the Zayn's end. Zayn finds it easy to manipulate Liam. They work through conflict together smoothly, and Liam is an equal and Zayn is submissive. The only way we've seen Zayn be a bit more submissive is kind of seeing Liam as a bit more of that creative mentor, like sort of swapping positions, especially when you compare it to Zayn and the other readings we've did with him and the other One Direction members. Zayn's Mars overlaid in Liam's 8th house. It's love-hate, and Liam feels possessive of Zayn. I don't like this weird sort of like, it seems like Liam wants to take on Zayn as some sort of like, you know, pupil. That, I don't know if that's the modern word for it. The only word that's coming in my head is like a pupil. Like, I'm imagining this like, you know, mentor guy taking on someone, mentee, maybe that's the right word, but sort of like pupil student type person Liam wants to take Zayn as. It's transformative, definitely. Liam feels like a damsel in distress around Zayn, okay. Liam's Mars overlaid in Zayn's 7th house. Liam speeds up the relationship. I mean, we did see before that the relationship is slower to start. So I wonder if this is relating to their success on X Factor. If what Liam is saying is true, how they met, because it seems like there's a few different, like there's a lot of mugginess about the sort of instigators in the creation of One Direction. If they did center this around Liam, you could kind of see this as speeding up the relationship, because without Liam, I guess you could interpret this as their sort of success and this sort of like meeting of each other wouldn't have happened as quickly, if that makes sense. Hopefully I made sense. That was a bit long. Liam is calmer around Zayn, and Liam wants to please Zayn, which goes back right into the beginning where we saw that Liam enjoys serving Zayn. They both enjoy spending time together. Their Mars signs are squared to each other, so there's a lack of basic understanding of each other, and they push each other, and it is difficult long term. I mean, all nice summary of them, because it proved to be difficult long term, didn't it? Zayn's Mars square Liam's Jupiter. They meet in a fun way, and Liam sees Zayn as selfish. Zayn sees Liam's logic as hindrance. I feel like this is more relating to Liam wanting to have seemingly wanting to have a bit more of a friendship than Zayn, because it seems like Zayn respects Liam on a more sort of intellectual, creative place. They encourage the other to be reckless, and Liam may be a bad influence on Zayn, okay. Zayn's Mars opposite Liam's Uranus. Zayn needs to learn to not take Liam's actions personally. I mean, he does seem to be quite sensitive to what Liam does. They have frequent arguments, which goes back to the whole like conversations become a source of conflict. Zayn's Mars opposite Liam's Neptune. They have opposite approaches to taking risk and argue about the differences between their wants. They do seem to have quite different approaches to things. That seems to be reflected in this reading. Liam's Mars opposite Zayn's Jupiter. They're a lucky couple, and there's healthy competition. They have lots of fun together, and Liam feels energized by Zayn. I have to assume like Liam feels energized by Zayn's sort of like, you know, admiration of him. Sort of like we did see like the dependability that Liam enjoys or feels flattered by, that dependability on Zayn's end. And it goes right back to the beginning where I feel like we did see that Liam naturally tends to be more dictatorial. He seems to need that sort of like ego boost, which if Zayn seems to be giving it a little bit, of course, Liam is energized by it. They feel stronger as a team than by themselves. In a sense, yes. They encourage each other to engage in reckless behavior. This has been sprinkled throughout the reading, hasn't it? So that was the final aspect, bringing us to the end of the reading. If you are still watching, please share your thoughts below. I feel like this was a bit different to the other readings we've done with Zayn's relationship with the other One Direction members. definitely, we didn't see a whole lot of like Zayn leaving. I feel like that was a lot more of a point of view in the other readings. That's okay. If you have made it this far, please consider subscribing for more. I post these readings weekly. And besides that, give this video a like, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.